Tonight, a moment of pure terror. A woman hit by a van and rammed through a Sydney shopfront. The frantic effort to save her.
Heartbreak for David Warner. His baggy green stolen on the eve of his final test at the SCG.
Australians caught in the middle of Japan's devastating earthquake.
The army called in as the Queensland floods threaten northern New South Wales.
The cheapest petrol in years sparks long queues at Padstow.
And why Denmark can't wait for Mary to be Queen. They love her.
Live from Sydney, 7 News with Angela Cox and Michael Usher.
Good evening. We begin with a woman's extraordinary survival and the terrifying moment she was hit by a van and rammed through the front of a shop in Homebush West.
She was walking past the building and in a split second was pinned down and buried by debris as the allegedly drunk driver tried to make a run for it.
At the Pyramid Spice shop, in a fiery flash, a van smashes through the wall, cleaning up the front counter, shelves toppling, the store wrecked. But worse, there's a woman pinned against the passenger door.
You all right? You okay now?
27-year-old Shutri Kumari was on her way to a nearby temple when she was swept off the footpath. She's alive, conscious, but trapped.
Oh, she's all right. She's okay?
And badly injured.
She said for that brother, I don't want to die, so I want to see my mum. Please, getting out for me.
Siva was first to climb over the van to help her.
I will jump up the top of the roof of the car and reach her first, and then she's bleeding.
He reaches out in comfort. She latches on with both hands.
Better for them they keep holding her and then talk to her. Smoke is coming. The people is scared.
Paramedics finally arrived, taking her to Westmead Hospital. Unbelievably, as others rush to help the woman, the van driver manages to quietly climb out the back, walking away. But witnesses followed him down the street to his home, police making an arrest. 52-year-old Song Lee faced court today. Police allege when they brought him back to the station, he was under the influence almost 3 times the limit.
What's your response to the evaluation?
The Korean national was granted bail to face court later this month. The victim will need major surgery, and the shop owner...
I couldn't sleep last night.
He's been left with an almighty mess. Serena Andaloro, 7 News.
On the eve of his final test match for Australia, David Warner has been left begging for the return of his prized baggy green. Ian Chappell once described the cricketer's crown as a $5 piece of cloth. But for Warner, its sentimental value is priceless and he's offering a reward for its return.
This should be the most celebrated week of his career, but instead David Warner is searching for his most prized possessions.
Someone has taken my backpack out of my actual luggage, which had my backpack and my girl's presents in there. Inside this backpack was my baggy greens.
Warner believes the baggy greens were lost while being flown from Melbourne to Sydney by Qantas.
We've gone through CCTV footage. They've got some blind spots apparently.
In a statement, Qantas says, "We appreciate the importance of this bag and we're doing everything we can to help find it."
It's sentimental to me. It's something that I would love to have back in my hands walking out there come this week.
Warner has long cherished the cap that so few ever get the honour of being presented with, often speaking about his love for it during his 12-year career.
It's something that I've, cherished ever since I've been given it by, Michael Slater, and it's just such an honour.
I think there should be a countrywide search right now from the Australian government.
Chappelle Corby even weighing in, commenting on Warner's social media post, "Qantas, well, do I have a story for you?" Warner is so desperate for the return of the baggy green in time for tomorrow's test that he's even offered a no questions asked reward.
If it's the backpack that you really wanted, I have a spare one here. You won't get into trouble. Please reach out to Cricket Australia or myself via my social media.
Jaleesa Rapps, 7 News.
A horrific attack on a South Korean politician has been caught on camera, and we warn it's confronting. Opposition leader Lee Jae-myung was stabbed in the neck while speaking to reporters. Witnesses say a man asked for an autograph before suddenly lunging. He was wrestled to the ground and arrested at the scene. Mr Mr. Lee was reportedly conscious when he was taken to hospital, the injury not believed to be life-threatening. The 59-year-old has been involved in a string of corruption scandals. At least 30 people are now confirmed dead in Japan, where a powerful earthquake has delivered the worst possible start to the year. The 7.6 quake has shattered towns and villages in the Ishikawa district and sparked fires, cut off electricity to tens of thousands of people, including Australians on holiday who were right in the middle of it.
Suddenly, violently, Japan's west coast in the brutal grip of an earthquake, magnitude 7.6. The shaking did not let go for around a minute. In this newsroom, a cameraman starts recording as colleagues duck under desks. At a shopping centre, as stock fell from shelves, customers fled or froze. Collapsing buildings, throwing up clouds of debris. This home sent tumbling. The destruction sparking fires that burned into the night. In the snowfields, Australian tourists caught up in the terrifying tremors. This Adelaide family high up in a gondola when it hit.
It was very scary, but it happened so quickly. So, we kind of didn't really process it. And we were stuck on the gondola probably for about half an hour.
Before making it safely back down.
津波です。助けに来てください。
Seeing the damage to her neighbourhood,
助けに来てください。
this woman says we're in serious trouble. Please help us. The military being sent in with roads in the region cut off, tens of thousands without power. TVs flashed alerts to evacuate, the first major tsunami warning since the 2011 disaster. There were fears of up to 5-metre waves. They reached about 1 metre, the alert downgraded. But with many aftershocks already, Japan's Prime Minister warning.
To remain on alert for more earthquakes to come.
As rescue teams search the ruins for survivors. Paul Kadak, 7 News.
A dual Australian-Israeli citizen has been killed fighting for the Israeli army in Gaza. Lior Sivan was serving as a tank commander when he was ambushed by militants. The 32-year-old reserves captain was born in Melbourne and moved to Israel with his parents as a toddler. Captain Sivan was married with a 2-year-old son. His wife is due to give birth to a daughter next week. There have been dozens of rescues after torrential rain and floods across northern New South Wales and Queensland. Tonight, some areas are being warned more dangerous weather could be on the way. The Army has been called in along with specialist SES teams.
After risking a deadly run across a flooded bridge, the owner watches his abandoned car drag down a raging Gold Coast river.
Crap.
Another dangerous crossing just over the border at Kyogle. This time, it's the bridge that gets washed away.
The message needs to be, if it's flooded, forget it.
It's been pouring across southeast Queensland and northern New South Wales, triggering flash flooding like here at Mount Tamborine. And for some areas, the weather is about to get worse.
It's a very dangerous forecast that we are facing over the next 24 hours.
Dozens of rescues have already been carried out across both states, and in Queensland, the Army has been ordered in.
Those ADF personnel will be focusing on the clearance of debris.
While a severe weather warning was cancelled, residents here in northern New South Wales are still bracing for more rain, with fears last year's flooding emergency could repeat itself. Hectares of Murwillumbah had been submerged from the golf course, the showgrounds and local parks.
Tonight you most probably see it right back up here again.
Residents were isolated for hours overnight in Tumbolgum as the river burst its banks.
That is amazing!
Kilometres away, 6 people were almost swept away, their caravans a mangled mess.
The advice we give to people is that certainly in high intense rain periods is not to camp in low-lying areas.
The wild weather also bringing out rare wildlife. A platypus found in a flooded backyard.
Live now to Angelique Opie in Murwillumbah. Angel, what's the outlook for northern New South Wales?
And the Weather Bureau says even if the rainfall eases, there could still be a risk of more flooding. That's because there's still water moving through catchments and rivers. In particular, Korakai near Lismore is one area of concern. Specialist SES crews have already been deployed from Sydney. They'll be on standby in the northern rivers in case the situation becomes dangerous once again.
Okay, Angelique Opie in northern New South Wales for us. Thank you.
Shock new evidence has revealed the pilot killed in the SeaWorld helicopter disaster had taken cocaine in the days leading up to the crash. Investigators have also detailed safety breaches on board the doomed flight, exactly 1 year since it claimed 4 lives.
There were hugs and tears as the family of Ron and Diane Hughes left flowers at the scene of what should have been a joy flight.
We were fishing that day, so yeah, it was pretty full on.
12 months on, new information about pilot Ash Jenkinson, a drug and alcohol management plan supervisor, but on the day of the crash had low levels of cocaine in his blood.
When you're a pilot, there should be no trace.
A toxicology report found he likely ingested the substance 1 to 4 days before his death.
It is unlikely to have had a contributing element in this factor, and that's because of the low levels that were found.
But the interim report by the Australian Transport and Safety Bureau found cocaine can have harmful effects on pilot performance, including risk-taking, inattentiveness and poor impulse control. The report also found seatbelts weren't fitted properly aboard his helicopter.
Out of respect for the victims and their families, SeaWorld helicopters grounded all flights today, marking a sombre anniversary of one of the country's worst aviation disasters.
But then, as Ron and Diane's family paused to remember them, one SeaWorld helicopter did take off. On board, the Premier and the Mayor on a reconnaissance flight to inspect damage from the storms. From the victims' family, for the Premier or not, we think it's disgusting. On the Gold Coast, Amanda Abate, 7 News.
There's been a disturbing increase in drug driving, with the number of charges double that of drink driving from far fewer tests. 1,200 drug drivers were caught over the Christmas-New Year period from 26,000 road stops.
We're detecting more, we are testing more, and we're looking at ways to improve that detection.
521 were caught drink driving, but that was from more than 300,000 tests.
An excited Danish public seems more than ready for an Australian-born Queen, proclaiming Mary the key to her husband Frederick keeping the country's monarchy alive as king.
The couple stepped out overnight for the first time since news broke of Queen Margrethe's pending abdication.
On a wet winter's night, cheers for the girl from Hobart who will be Denmark's Queen in less than 2 weeks.
She's very popular among the people.
The Crown Prince and Crown Princess at Amalienborg Palace for the abdicating Queen's New Year's banquet, a centuries-old tradition. But tradition here is being upended.
A very exciting time. It's not happened in 900 years, so this is just extraordinary. It's a historical moment.
Queen Margrethe making way for her son with his Aussie bride by his side.
She has a tremendous sense of duty. She's always very, very well prepared.
The Queen's abdication, a genuine surprise for the Danes. Margrethe is the first monarch to step down here since the 12th century. It was clearly a closely guarded secret, but there is speculation now it was all part of a grand plan, with Mary playing a key role.
We needed some down-to-earth normality, and she really brought that. And over the years, she developed. She's now she's becoming a queen.
Who could be the key to the future king's success?
I think she will help him in his role by being her, being the person she is. She's got a lot of dignity.
Who is accepted here as the Australian Queen. Well, this is where the Danish Prime Minister will proclaim the new King Frederick and Queen Mary, the balcony of the Danish Parliament on January 14. It'll be a new experience for all because they won't be mourning the death of the previous monarch, just celebrating the new. And there is a consensus here. This is a path set down by Queen Margrethe. Just a few weeks ago, Frederick and Mary's eldest son, Prince Christian, turned 18. He swore an oath to uphold the country's constitution. He will be the new Crown Prince. Mary clearly ready and capable of being Queen. There is history to be made here in the coming weeks. Michael.
Very exciting indeed. Thanks so much, Hugh. Yeah. Now, Paul Kadak joins us with a check of Sydney's weather. Paul, some blue sky out there today.
Good evening. Yes, there was, well, glimpses of it anyway, breaking through what's been a pretty grey start to the year. This was the view over Parramatta today. Patchy skies with some bursts of blue this afternoon. The city reaching a high of 28 degrees just after 11 this morning before those easterly winds picked up. In the west, temperatures kept rising, reaching 30 just after 4 this afternoon. Statewide, highs a bit below average, while up near the Queensland border, some stations have recorded 200 millimetres of rain in 24 hours. Tonight, there's a severe thunderstorm warning for parts of the Riverina and Central Tablelands that could affect Wagga Wagga, Young, Junee and Lithgow. And for everyone crossing fingers for the test tomorrow, for Sydney and the SCG, it is looking pretty clear. The full forecast is coming up.
Good news. We'll look forward to that. All right, Paul. Thank you. Well, the toxic smoke warning for a major Australian city still ahead, an intense factory blaze forcing dozens of evacuations.
Tributes for the man killed in yesterday's unit fire in Meadowbank.
Why the AUKUS submarines deal is in danger of being scrapped.
A diabetes breakthrough that could spell the end of daily insulin injections.
And have a look at this. Petrol prices at their lowest point in years, where you can fill up cheaply.
Thank you for watching 7 News. An out-of-control factory inferno has triggered a toxic smoke alert in Melbourne. Around 20 workers had to be evacuated from the scrap metal yard with piles of metal recycling and rubber on fire. Fire crews remain at the site trying to bring it under control. They still haven't figured out what caused the blaze. Residents have been warned to stay inside.
25 people have been charged with drug offences at yesterday's Field Day Dance Festival in the Domain. 91 people were found in possession of drugs, including a 23-year-old man caught with 60 ecstasy tablets. He was granted conditional bail to appear in court in February. 5 others were charged with supplying drugs.
Investigators think that big explosion inside a Meadowbank apartment yesterday may have come from the kitchen, with neighbours saying they could smell natural gas. The owner, who was found in the corridor after fleeing the flames, died overnight with burns to 80% of his body.
Mohsen Rasuli was a 45-year-old accountant living a happy life in his newly renovated Meadowbank apartment until yesterday afternoon.
Many police, firemen, they are inside. They take Mohsen to the hospital.
His best mate, Saeed, saw the fire on 7 News and rushed to the scene. At 2:30 this morning, Mohsen passed away in front of him and his family in the Royal North Shore Burns unit.
Really perfect man and honest, very polite. Yeah, he tried to help everyone.
Mohsen's apartment exploded around 3:30 while he was inside.
He made it out in the foyer. And he was severely burned.
He suffered burns to 80% of his body.
My wife and I were hoping that he survived, and we were praying for him.
A firefighter was also taken to hospital with chest pains. He is okay.
Neighbours have told investigators they smelt gas just before the explosion, but those close to Mohsen say he was fastidious about how he kept his apartment, always making sure to turn off switches on the wall and his kitchen stove.
Always he checked his home to make sure everything is closed, gas, electricity.
Fire investigators, detectives and forensics spent the day inside the charred wreck. The explosion is believed to have occurred in the kitchen, but how and why is not yet clear. Tom Saker, 7 News.
An alleged drunk driver has been arrested after ploughing into 3 vehicles in Western Sydney early this morning. The driver allegedly sideswiping one vehicle in Homebush and only minutes later smashing into 2 parked vehicles in Lidcombe. Crews cleared the wreckage, including an oil spill. The man returned a positive breath test before being taken into custody. Just 2 days into the new year and promises of cheaper fuel are already coming good, with unleaded selling in Sydney for as little as $1.37. In what economists hope is an omen for the months ahead, drivers around Padstow were today dazzled by prices they thought they'd never see again.
Lining up for a bargain.
It's like Christmas coming again.
Sydney's most popular service station today, $1.37 for unleaded.
It's amazing. Yeah, I've never seen that price.
Oh, it's beautiful.
Using their last drop of fuel just to save on the cost of it.
We're on empty.
You're on empty while queuing?
Yeah, almost.
The unleaded is far better than anywhere else.
In fact, a few minutes down the street, much quieter, as drivers crammed into the metro in disbelief at the price.
Lowest price I've ever seen.
Ever seen?
Ever seen.
In her lifetime, she's only about 29 years old.
Not quite that long ago.
It's a really welcome gift to start the new year. Price at $1.37. We haven't seen it in almost 18 months.
Not an easy place for drivers to queue, one of Sydney's busiest roads, but with that price on offer, worth it. It's a visible display of the cost of living crunch. You had to be quick. By lunchtime, it was back to $1.58, but compare that to $2.19 at Maryland's. Prices peaked before Christmas at $1.96, tonight averaging $1.89, with more relief on the way.
Hopefully it can cool off another 15 to 20 cents on average before we roll into February.
Although what happens at the Bowser now hinging on conflicts easing in Ukraine and the Middle East.
The bad news for petrol prices has basically been bullets flying around the world.
Chris Marr, 7 News.
Russia marked New Year's Day with an intense drone attack in the Odessa and Lviv regions of Ukraine. Vladimir Putin's forces launched almost 90 drones retaliating against Ukraine's strike on the Russian city of Belgorod. It followed an 18-hour barrage of Russian airstrikes that killed 49 people across Ukraine last week.
9 commuters have ended up in hospital after a train derailed and caught fire in California. The 8-car engine came off the tracks when a key switch failed to work properly early on New Year's Day. Passengers were forced to walk to a nearby station. That busy line shut down for hours.
Hundreds of young music fans charged down Oxford Street. Still to come, the popular wrap-up that sparked a stampede.
The specialists getting hearing help to kids who need it most.
An early draft of Mickey Mouse enters the public domain. What it means for Disney.
And ahead in sport, we're live from the SCG on Test Eve with Pat Cummins' wish list after a year that's very hard to top.
The federal government is under fire for not doing enough to protect the nation's $370 billion nuclear submarines deal.
Senior Trump advisors have criticised the new AUKUS arrangement, saying the United States doesn't have enough boats to supply Australia.
Undermining AUKUS.
Air bearing 345.
2 senior advisors to Donald Trump have warned against the nuclear submarines deal.
I think there's a real risk with AUKUS going forward.
Claiming the deal is crazy on its current timeline, worried the US doesn't have enough nuclear subs of its own.
I wouldn't jump at shadows at these particular comments. I'd never heard of these particular 2 individuals.
It comes after US Congress passed laws allowing the sale of 3 Virginia-class boats to Australia.
We're taking things from them and not contributing anything. That gets hard, particularly if Australia hasn't done some of the obvious heavy lifting, like building a new East Coast base.
Brisbane, Newcastle and Port Kembla, possible sites. But the Albanese government has delayed a decision by a decade.
We remain very confident that there is strong cross-partisan support in all 3 countries for the AUKUS arrangements.
The Prime Minister is under fire for refusing to help in the Red Sea, Iran sending a warship after the US Navy destroyed 3 Houthi boats.
American forces killed 10 Houthi rebels.
The US election will be held in November, and as Donald Trump's popularity grows, pressure is mounting on the Australian government to do more to reassure our biggest ally. Donald Trump ahead of Joe Biden in the latest polls.
I think he's entirely transactional as a leader, and if he thinks it's bad value for America, he won't care what previous commitments were made.
Isabel Mullen, 7 News.
Some extraordinary scenes in Paddington this afternoon after hundreds of fans swarmed Oxford Street for a glimpse of British rapper Central C. Some had camped out since 4 a.m. First dibs at a store selling the singer's merchandise.
Feeling your energy, feeling your spirit. If this is the end, I need one more visit. They're showing me love, but I still feel empty. I need something a lot more fulfilling.
There he is. Central C performed at the Domain yesterday. One of his tracks spent 10 weeks at the top of the UK charts. That's a record for a rap song.
A Qantas passenger has described a frightening moment. He helped tackle a man who went berserk on a recent flight from Bali to Melbourne, sparking an in-flight emergency.
I jumped up and right about that time he said, "Where's my knife?"
Matt managed to pin the man in the aisle and the crew tied his hands with cable ties. Passengers then took turns to sit on him until the flight landed, where it was met by federal police.
Scientists are on the verge of a breakthrough cure for type 1 diabetes. In a life-changing discovery, Australian researchers have identified drugs to potentially eliminate the need for round-the-clock insulin injections.
Eliminating reliance on insulin injections or pumps is a dream for many living with type 1 diabetes. That's now a step closer to reality.
We are repairing the damaged pancreas of individuals that are living with diabetes.
It's really hard to convey how exhausting it is managing being an organ all the time, and the prospect of being able to be my full me is really exciting.
Researchers at the Baker Heart and Diabetes Institute have discovered a way to regenerate insulin production in those living with the disease.
We've harnessed stem cells that naturally are present in the damaged pancreas and stimulated them and instructed them to make insulin again.
We found 2 drugs that influence the pancreatic stem cells to behave like insulin-producing beta cells.
The 2 drugs identified by the researchers are already approved to treat rare cancers in America. Now the research is published. Preclinical testing will begin this year.
The therapeutic pipeline now is to test this in animals.
Researchers hopeful the breakthrough treatment could be available within a decade.
The idea now is to invest with industry and commercial partners to fund the gap in research funding.
There's the possibility that for all of us, we might be able to say at least goodbye to some of this 24/7 job.
It could also be life-changing for up to 30% of people living with type 2 diabetes who also require insulin. Sarah Jane Bell, 7 News.
Half of Australian children with hearing problems don't get the help they need, and it's affecting their education and social skills. A group of clinicians is looking to reduce that statistic, expanding hearing centres across the country.
When Eva Savoy was born, she was diagnosed with permanent hearing loss.
It's not something that you ever imagine will happen, and we didn't have any family history of it, so it was a real shock.
Now the 4-year-old is speaking clearly.
Hello.
Thanks to clinicians at the Shepherd Centre.
Which has really enabled her to meet all her language and speech milestones, and she'll be starting preschool next year.
1 in 300 Australian children will have some degree of hearing impairment by the time they go to school.
We know that listening is so critical in a classroom. It's fundamental to reading, it's fundamental to social skills, executive function.
Unlike Eva's parents, half don't seek help. The Shepherd Centre wants to close that gap, providing specialist care, speech pathology programs and cutting-edge technology at clinics in New South Wales and Tasmania, funded by the NDIS, along with generous donations.
The centre has seen an uptick in enrolments over the past 2 years, up 25%. And as time goes on, staff want to help more children across the country and around the world.
We know there's an unmet need across Australia. We're working through our research program to take what we have here and enable that to happen in different places around the world as well.
Giving the invaluable gift of hearing. Angelique Opie, 7 News.
It provided inspiration through COVID. Now, Royal Melbourne Hospital's renowned scrub choir has recorded one of Sia's biggest hits to inspire Aussie mum Donna Urquhart, who's currently trying to break the Antarctic Marathon running record.
Never give up, no, never give up, no, no.
Oh, that was incredible, so special. The melody, like the chorus of Never Give Up, like, can I have that on my playlist?
She's got a bit of time to keep listening to that song. She has 400 kilometres to go. Well, it's taken weeks, but the SCG is finally ready for its big day. Up next, the army of workers getting every inch of the ground pitch perfect.
Plus, the new drugs to hit the PBS this year.
And soon in sport, drama keeps following Novak Djokovic an injury scare ahead of the Australian Open.
The Albanese government's made a number of medicines cheaper under the pharmaceutical benefit scheme. Lynparza will be expanded for Australian women with newly diagnosed advanced ovarian cancer. It destroys cancer cells and would otherwise cost patients hundreds of thousands of dollars. Calquence is being made available for sufferers with chronic lymphocytic leukemia, and Orkambi will be expanded for 1-year-olds with cystic fibrosis. Well, with the Sydney Test starting tomorrow, it's not just the players on edge, but a small army of staff at the Sydney Cricket Ground. Their job to make sure everything is perfectly prepared, from the hallowed turf to the lunch menu.
If there's a feeling you get when you walk into the SCG, it's because from pitch to plate to dotted I's and crossed T's, everything is millimetre perfect.
We always feel pressure. We're our own worst enemy, so we want the perfect pitch. Groundskeepers
play a year-round juggling act between footy and cricket. In summer, the name of the game produced not just one perfect pitch, but 9.
We put a lot of time and a lot of effort, and the guys sort of have sleepless nights coming into the test, making sure that we've ticked, every box.
The Bulleye soil, Adam says, fertile ground for another classic Sydney spin-off.
That brings spin into play at the end of the 4th and 5th day.
Behind the scenes, John Perkins is working beyond millimetres with a golden flourish, and Merivale's cooking up a storm, copping more deliveries than any batter could possibly handle.
We have trucks delivering every day. It takes an army, especially with the quality that we provide and the diversity of it.
This year, it's not all home ground advantage.
Well, we've gone all out and really put a lot of time and effort into producing a new menu for the Pakistani, a cultural menu.
While the game changes, the science of groundskeeping improves and large-scale hospitality goes to another level, some things like the dressing rooms don't ever change and hopefully never will. This is a room Don Bradman never left, and still the perfect place for a debrief.
They call me in and have a beer with them, so it's really nice.
Tom Saker, 7 News.
It was a strong start for Australian shares for the first trading day of 2024, creeping closer to a record high. The ASX 200 closing up 37 points, within 5 points of the peak in August 2021. 10 of the 11 sectors finished in the green, a strong day for the energy sector, mining giants and the banks. Insurance Australia Group took a hit. Investors worried the bad weather will see a spike in claims. The Aussie dollar is buying 68 US cents. Gold is trading at more than $2,000 an ounce, and new data has revealed a big divide in house price growth over 2023. Brisbane, Adelaide and Perth all jumped by double digits. Melbourne barely moved, while Hobart and Darwin actually went backwards in the past 12 months.
Well, Taylor Swift fans are being warned to beware of scalpers selling fake tickets to next month's sold-out Eras tour. Some tickets originally sold for $370 but were found listed for as high as $2,000.
If the markup on the ticket is more than 10%, in most states in Australia, that means that the ticket is not being sold legally.
Now, consumer experts are warning fans to stick to the official site Ticketek, which is the only licensed reseller for the event. He's arguably the most iconic cartoon character in history, and now, after almost a century, Mickey Mouse is in the public domain. Disney's copyright has finally expired, what that means for the animation giant, and how some innovative artists are already taking advantage. Don't miss the full story shortly here on 7 News.
First, Matt's here with sport from the SCG. Matt, all set for David Warner's farewell test match?
Oh, Ange and Michael, we just need those baggy green caps to arrive, but we can expect fireworks from David Warner here tomorrow. Just what his captain wants to see. Coming up, Pat Cummins ahead of a pink test that really hits home for the Aussie skipper this time. And Alex de Minaur fires up for the summer while there's an injury scare for Novak Djokovic.
Tomorrow on Sunrise, a full preview of Sydney's iconic pink test. Glenn McGrath joins us live from the SCG ahead of the first ball being bowled.
Plus, the things that you should stop paying for in 2024, the billions of dollars Aussies are wasting in loyalty tax every year.
See you in the morning.
Welcome back to the SCG, where on the eve of the pink test, Pakistan's captain Shan Masood has joined calls for David Warner's baggy green caps to be returned. As we reported earlier, Warner's offered a reward for the caps. His own skipper is determined to give the gun opener a great farewell from Test cricket.
High above the SCG to ground level, Pat Cummins likes what he sees up close from the pitch.
Yeah, looks like it's decent coverage of grass, so should be a good week ahead.
We're hoping for a little bit of good carry and then for it to break up later on in the game.
And turn?
I'll definitely turn, yeah.
Optional training attended by those who love batting. Not David Warner before his final test. Red or white ball cricket, Cummins all praise.
Yeah, Warner week started. I think of him when he first came into the scene really changed Test cricket. I think he's our greatest free-form player.
Also keen, the gun opener and part-time leg spinner has a fairy tale finish.
100, maybe a leg spinner maybe to take the last wicket of the game or something. Well, I only just thought of it.
Before his media conference, Cummins was unaware Warner's baggy green caps were missing. Once photographed sleeping with the famous headwear, ironically keeping an eye on it. From Pakistan, sympathy.
I hope they find it, but yeah, it's the most precious sort of thing for any cricketer, and I hope David Warner gets it back.
6 of the last 7 SCG pink tests have been interrupted by rain. Tomorrow's forecast, though, fine. Days lost to rain, nothing compared to family loss. The pink test, raising funds for the McGrath Foundation and cancer awareness. Cummins losing mum Maria to the disease last March.
Pink test is always going to have a special place in the heart of our family, and this year even more so.
2 shock changes for the tourists, axing opener Imam Ul Haq and pace spearhead Shaheen Afridi. Andrew McKinlay, 7 News.
Our live coverage of the SCG test, David Warner's farewell, begins at 9:30 tomorrow morning. First ball is bowled at 10:30. Sydney Sixers remain second in the Big Bash despite a second straight washout. 2 days after his wedding, the appearance of local golfing legend Cameron Smith became the highlight of the night at the Gabba without a ball bowled.
I don't know what to do with this thing. It's like it's itchy. I can't stop fiddling with it. But yeah, mate, it was an epic time.
Sydney Thunder fell to last place on the ladder with 1 win from 6 games after their 7-wicket thrashing by the Hobart Hurricanes. Tonight it's the Melbourne Derby, Stars versus Renegades from the MCG, straight after 7 News. Novak Djokovic has overcome an injury scare ahead of the Australian Open. The world number 1 needed treatment on his forearm early in his United Cup clash in Perth before losing the second set to Jiri Lehechka. Djokovic then called a medical timeout, helping him close out the match 6-love in the third.
Match official.
You know, these things happen. You just have to manage. You don't have to find a solution. And thankfully I managed to finish the match, and let's see what happens now.
Serbia levelled the tie against the Czech Republic, the winner to face the Aussies in the quarterfinals. The perfect tune-up for Alex de Minaur, who brought out his best last night, winning in straight sets over world number 10 Taylor Fritz. Meanwhile, Ash Barty was an interested onlooker in Brisbane, watching on with 6-month-old son Hayden and her mother Josie.
Josie there as well.
The Wanderers kept their hold on third place, but MacArthur's slide continued in the A-League's Western Sydney derby. 2-0 within 12 minutes for the Red and Black before a Jake Holman special kept the Bulls in the contest.
Jake Holman. What a strike! What an amazing goal from Jake Holman! That is brilliant!
But Western Sydney secured a 3-1 victory. It is 3 straight losses for MacArthur. From an early penalty saved, Mo Salah was in it all for Liverpool against Newcastle, his 150th Premier League goal, and all for the Reds.
150.
and he had a foot in all 4 Liverpool goals in a 4-2 second half that put them 3 points ahead of Aston Villa on top. Salah sealed it with a successful spot kick that his manager Jurgen Klopp couldn't quite watch. They now lose the Egyptian wizard for up to a month on African Cup of Nations duty. The unlikely run of 16-year-old British darts player Luke Littler is turning into a national fairy tale. He's the youngest player to reach the semi-finals at the World Championships.
No sign of this teenage dream coming to an end. Luke Littler sweeps aside another brilliant darts player.
He may be the product of misspent youth, but the boy from just outside Liverpool has all of England behind him. Not old enough to go to the pub, but he can play darts, guys. Andrew McKinlay had a great view on the roof.
Yeah.
It feels magic here at the SCG. Something special going to happen here with David Warner, I think, this week.
Can you imagine the pressure he feels tonight? He's putting a lot of it on himself, but I predict he's going to come out and absolutely smash it. Matt, what do you reckon?
When he's fired up, Michael, when he's up against it, you see the best of David Warner. So a big one coming.
Exciting to watch tomorrow. Good on you, Matt. Thank you. Well, the original version of Walt Disney's Mickey Mouse, which launched an empire, is now free to be used by anyone.
After more than a century, the copyright on the first Mickey image has expired, despite efforts to keep him in-house.
He's the spindly-legged Mickey Mouse, the earliest version from the 1928 film Steamboat Willie that transformed Walt Disney's fortunes. But today, after nearly a century, this Mickey is everyone's Mickey.
I kind of feel like the pipe on the steamboat, like expelling smoke. It's so exciting that it's finally here.
Disney's copyright on first draft Mickey and Minnie has expired, allowing creatives to use the images without permission. The entertainment company at pains to warn the more modern versions,
"Hey everybody, it's me, Mickey Mouse,"
are still covered. Disney spent decades fighting.
The term was extended, so as of 1978, it was extended to 75 years, and then so we would have gotten Steamboat Willie in 2004.
Finally running out of puff, and it's taken less than 24 hours for the beloved cartoon to morph into a gory killer. Infestation 88, a survival game where players are hunted by Steamboat Mickey, a precedent set when rights to Winnie the Pooh expired earlier this year. Disney said Mickey will continue to play a leading role as a global ambassador, even if the pioneering mouse is out of the house. In the United States, Jacqueline Robson, 7 News.
Now, Paul's back with the weather, and Paul, things are looking good for the start of the test tomorrow.
Angela, they are indeed. We should see some more sunshine tomorrow. Your full forecast is next.
Tonight's 7 News headlines: a woman remains in hospital after a van smashed through a Meadowbank shop.
David Warner is pleading for the return of his missing baggy green cap ahead of his final test.
And Princess Mary is preparing to become Queen of Denmark in just a matter of weeks. Now here's Paul with Sydney's weather. Paul.
Thanks, Michael. Good evening. Patches of blue breaking through the grey today, and we should get more of the sun tomorrow. The city reaching 28 degrees just after 11 this morning when that sea breeze started picking up. Temperatures kept rising in the west until mid-afternoon. Parramatta, Penrith, Liverpool and Campbelltown all reaching 29. 31 was the top at Richmond. A coastal trough bringing that rain to northern New South Wales should move away tomorrow, while another trough deepening over the western half of the state has brought scattered showers and thunderstorms. That trough starting to move eastwards over the next few days, bringing more showers and storms and helping keep things humid ahead of a southerly change on Thursday. Around Australia tomorrow for the capitals, Brisbane, a shower or two and 30 degrees. Showers and a possible storm for Canberra and 29. A wet and possibly stormy day for Melbourne with 27. Hobart, a shower or two and 24. Adelaide looking at cloudy day and 27. Mostly sunny for Perth and 32, with a possible storm in Darwin and 35 degrees. Statewide tomorrow, scattered showers and thunderstorms, more likely for the southern half of the ranges and inland. Isolated showers in the northeast, hot in the far west, 41 degrees for Broken Hill, 40 at Bourke. On the coast, Wollongong, partly cloudy and 27. Newcastle, sunshine and 29. Across Sydney tomorrow, a few clouds about, warmer than today with just the slight chance of an afternoon shower in the outer west. Penrith and Richmond looking at 32 degrees, 31 for Bankstown and for Fairfield. The sea breeze helping keep highs to 26 at Cronulla and Mona Vale. And on coastal waters, those winds will be northeasterly, starting around 10 to 15 knots, increasing to 20 knots in the early afternoon. So for the city and Sydney Cricket Ground tomorrow, mostly sunny with no rain interruptions on the way to a top of 29 degrees. Thursday, we're looking at maybe just an afternoon shower or two. Falls could be a bit heavier in the west. The southerly change then knocks temperatures back to the mid-20s on Friday, staying cloudy with a chance of a light shower through the weekend, warming up then into next week. But Michael, Angela, no sign of any washout weather heading our way for the next 5 days.
Yeah, that'll be a shock. No change for the books. Thanks so much, Paul.
Perfect.
That is 7 News for this Tuesday. We'll have updates for you throughout the evening.
Sunrise starts from 5:30 tomorrow, of course, from all the 7 News team here. Thanks so much for your company. Have a great night.
Good night.